Imagine a world where you're a lonely astronaut stranded on a hostile planet far, far away from home, unable to escape. Not just because your ship's broken, but because you literally cannot escape this nightmare. Even if you die, because every time you do, you start at the very beginning. Over and over and over again. Sounds pretty fucking horrible, doesn't it? This is the world of Returnal, with a dark, grim, and dystopian environment, and a story which at first might seem a little cliche. I mean, stranded on a planet with a bunch of aliens trying to rip your head off? But Returnal manages to create something special. Painful, but very special. The first thing you probably already know about this game is that it's hard. I mean, properly hard. You die, you start over, exactly where you started with all your equipment gone. The game is very unforgiving because it wants you to suffer. Wait, that might have sounded a little psychotic. No, because it wants you to really experience the story. The story of Returnal is about loss, tragedy, being stuck, not able to move on, and most importantly, suffering. And it delivers them in the most effective ways possible. To explain why, we first need to understand the conventional way of telling a story in a video game. Games are generally designed to be played by as many people as possible. Now, one way to achieve this is to make sure that there are levels of difficulty. I mean, normally that's like the first thing you select, but not in Returnal. You play this game by its rules. Not because it wants to be cool or unnecessarily challenging, but because it's an essential part of the story. You have to experience it exactly in this way to then truly say, I played Returnal. In story-driven games, one of the most challenging things is figuring out how the game mechanics tie in with the story and the atmosphere. What is the best way that the player can really feel what's happening? Because remember, you're not watching a movie where everything's just presented to you on a nice plate. And in this game, you don't just experience it, you become a part of it. You feel the main character's pain and suffering much more effectively because it's hard for you to go through this as well. To beat the game, you actually have to become good at it, spending more and more time fully immersing yourself in this world. And while at first I was afraid that this might get repetitive pretty soon, it really didn't. The map varies each time you die, with randomization system keeping you on your toes. This is absolutely genius. But you wanna know the best part? You don't even need to beat the game to understand what it's about. See, experiencing Returnal even just a little bit gives you enough information to come up with a few theories. What am I doing on this planet? Who's this mysterious astronaut? What even is my identity? Returnal's story is very much open to interpretation. That is to say, even if you complete the entire thing and watch every single cutscene and read all the articles about it, there are still plausible theories you came up with the first hour of playing the game, and they still hold up. It's a really complicated mess, but the basic elements are clear at every turn of the page, and that is the entire point. But also, I mean, it's just a really good fucking game in general. On the topic of immersion, the haptic feedback integration is just out of this world, and not to mention the gorgeous visuals which further enhance the experience. Additionally, you can't really rush through the story like you can in other games. I mean, unless you're a speedrunner or just really good at games, which I am not. It forces you to slow down and contemplate your steps, making you feel like every death has a purpose, and every little detail is there for a reason. So you take your time and explore some more. The definition of the more you f around, the more you find out. Ultimately, the slogan of the game describes it exactly. Break the cycle. The cycle of pain, or a literal edge of tomorrow cycle. It walks on this fine line of harsh reality, or just constructed in my head harsh reality, pointing you to the direction of, does it really matter at all that it's real or happening all in my head? Whether I should find a way out of this very f***ed up planet or deal with trauma? This Groundhog Day-esque story isn't completely original, but it's done very well. It truly pushes this genre to new heights, and sometimes even genuinely feels as if It's an actual episode of Black Mirror. Returnal is a lot like a plotless story with an overarching theme of closed-loop barriers. F it. It actually is exactly that. Because you can never know precisely what happens in the story in its entirety, you might think it's kind of a mystery that needs solving, but that's not really it either. Returnal clearly took inspiration from a lot of movies, books, games, and even mythology quite heavily, so the narrative is more allegorical.
That means I'm the cause of everything. Of course.
The reason why this story is an absolute masterpiece is because it's very relatable. Not the shooting aliens and orb-puking creatures part, but the fact that all of us at some point in our lives felt powerless and stuck, trying to break out of the cycle of pain and ever-growing obstacles, when every time we feel like we're making progress, we somehow end up in the exact same place. And this complements the roguelike genre of this game so well, especially when you're sent back to start all over again knowing full well what obstacles lay ahead. It's very much like tackling problems in real life. Some are very easy, so we march rapidly, only to be slowed down and ultimately stopped by the new and more challenging obstacles. So we fail again and again and again, until we gather enough strength and knowledge to overcome them in our next try. Let's not forget that this story is really about tragedy, with the 5 stages of grief represented as 5 boss fights connecting everything together. The first one being denial, when we see Celine still not able to process everything properly.
The fog has dispersed, and the energy signature is gone.
The second, anger, when we see her being visibly more aggressive.
Dispatched. Something exalted.
Bargaining, which only comes after defeating the 3rd boss and seeing Celine return to Earth, but only to be brought back once again, however this time having to deal with the 4th, representing depression.
Finally. Silence. It was too much. Too much.
And at last, we get to acceptance. Ultimately, it is trying to make a different, grander point about all of us. The unreliable narration of Returnal shifts our focus towards something more meaningful. And finally, breaking the cycle. Thank you for sticking till the end of the video, and don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next one.